talked about the school, concerns, talked to the community, and now Bill's been chopped at the bit, so I'm going to give him the floor and let him kind of talk a little bit about what research is telling us.
Okay, well, first of all, it's a real pleasure to be here today. Let me say what I'm hearing around the table is very familiar. I've now been to 40 states talking about this. And what I tell people is this is a problem that affects every family in America. Right now, this is where we are. If you look about 10 years out of high school, only 40% of young people actually have some kind of a college degree. About 30% have a 4-year degree or higher. Another 10% have an associate's degree. So 60% do not have a college degree. That's where we are right now after several decades of telling every kid they need to go to a 4-year school. Texas is actually overproducing people with 4-year degrees. We're producing more of those than what we actually need in the economy. What we've been doing is neglecting the technically demanding jobs that do require education, but not necessarily what you're going to get at UT Austin. Now, one thing you're not going to get, unfortunately, you go to the community college or whatever, is, you're not going to get the big-time football, which is too bad. But aside from that, you're probably going to get an education that's more realistic. Mm-hmm. So I think the bottom line for this community is, how can we move to a situation where we're really trying to get all of the kids coming through this high school, coming out really on a pathway to lead a successful life as an adult. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, 5 or 10 years after they graduate, you run into them on the street. The question is, what are you doing? You're not going to ask them, what was your test score back in 11th grade? And they're not going to remember even if you do ask them. The question is, what are you doing? Do you have a job? Do you have a family now? Are you married? What's going on with your life? Those are the things you're going to be asked. So I think one thing about House Bill 5, which is good, is de-emphasize the overfixation on testing. Instead of taking 15 tests, they narrow that down to 5. The challenge is, how are we going to move to a situation where we're getting these kids better prepared? And our belief is that we have to do that in partnership with the business community. It cannot be solved by the schools alone. And if that's the attitude that's taken, even though you've got a great superintendent here, you're going to fall short. We need a partnership with the business community in order to get this done. And it needs to start earlier than high school, by the way, to talk to the kids about what are the opportunities in this community where you can succeed. How can we get more kids at this high school and in the community involved in the workforce somehow? Getting some basic work experience is really critically important. And work-based learning. Shannon talks about project-based learning, but work-based learning is where you're partnering with the business community, so you're going to learn some of that stuff on the job in the field you're actually interested in. If it's healthcare, working in a hospital or with a doctor. If it's in the restaurant and hospitality industry, working in a restaurant or a hotel or whatever. Right now, a lot of them are not getting that. And we face a lot of social problems too, and I'm sure that's as true here as it is everywhere. Sure. A lot of kids come to school living in poverty. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think that's a core message. If we do this the right way, if House Bill 5 is actually implemented, this can be a gateway out of poverty. And I know we all like to talk about the elite jobs. The kids are going to grow up to be lawyers, or are they going to be the governor of Texas or something like that, which is great to have those goals. But I think an even more fundamental goal is, how do we take these kids who are in poverty right now and get them into the middle class, or on a pathway to the middle class? That is really an admirable goal for this community to have. Only 1 out of 4 jobs in the state of Texas actually requires a 4-year degree or higher. If you ask the parents, probably every hand would go up. My kid needs to go to a 4-year school. That simply is not true in terms of what you need for the economy. Because we've brainwashed people into thinking that's the only pathway forward, we have a lot of unemployed or underemployed 4-year college graduates.
Yes, we do.
A lot of